Let us begin by summarizing the discussion so far. We saw that a function f from Rn to Rm is linear if f of x plus y is equal to f of x plus f of y, and f of alpha times x is equal to alpha times f of x for all alpha in R. Similarly, we saw that f from Cn to Cm is linear if f of x plus y is equal to f of x plus f of y, and f of alpha x is equal to alpha times f of x for all complex numbers alpha. Now we will ask a question. Suppose we have a function f from a set V to a set W. What properties should these set V and W have so that we can talk about the linearity of the function f? To talk about linearity, given 2 points x and y in V, we should be able to add it. And then we will look at the image of this sum, and the image of this sum is equal to sum of these images. In other words, we should be able to take sum in W as well. That means given two elements of W, we should be able to take their sum. Next, given a point x in V, we should be able to multiply it with some number, and we should similarly be able to do the same for any element in W. And this multiplication is called scalar multiplication. I think we used the word before, but I did not mention why it is called scalar multiplication. Recall that the function f from Rn to Rn defined as x goes to alpha times x is a scaling when you visualize it geometrically. And that is why it is called scalar multiplication. And these numbers alpha will be called scalars. And we notice that the scalar need not always come from R, it can also come from C. Whether the scalar came from R or from C depended on the domain and codomain of these functions. Therefore, when we are talking about the linearity of a function f from V to W, the set of scalars will depend on the sets V and W. However, what is important is that there should be some set of scalars with which we can scale elements of V and elements of W. Let us repeat. To talk about linearity of f from V to W, given any two elements of V, we should be able to add them. And similarly, given any two elements of W, we should be able to add them. And we should be able to scale elements of V by elements from a predefined set of scalars, and we should be able to scale elements of W with the same set of scalars. Given the importance of linear functions, sets on which we can define linear functions are also important. Therefore, sets on which we can do addition and scalar multiplication will have a special name. Of course, we wouldn't want the addition and scalar multiplication to be defined completely arbitrary. We would like them to have some nice properties. Sets V on which we have addition and scalar multiplication such that they satisfy some nice properties would be called vector spaces. Before we go to the rigorous definition of a vector space, we would like to understand better what this set of scalars can be. We already saw that it can be R or C. Now, what else can it be? And people have decided that it can be any field. What is a field? A field is a set F with two operations plus and dot that satisfies certain nice properties. For convenience, we might call plus addition and dot multiplication. Now let us come to the properties that plus and dot has to satisfy. To begin with, plus is associative and commutative. Similarly, dot is associative and commutative. Then there exists an element 0 such that f plus 0 is equal to 0 plus f is equal to f for all elements f in capital F. Then for every element f in capital F, there exists an element g in capital F such that f plus g is equal to g plus f is equal to 0. Then there exists an element 1 such that f into 1 is equal to 1 into f is equal to f for every element f in capital F. And for every element f in capital F, there exists an element g in capital F such that f into g is equal to g into f is equal to 1. The first property is called the existence of the additive identity. 0 is called the additive identity. And the second property is called existence of additive inverse. For every element f in capital F, there exists an inverse g that belongs to capital F. Third property is called existence of multiplicative identity, and one is called the multiplicative identity. And fourth property says that for every element f in capital F, there exists a multiplicative inverse, and g is the multiplicative inverse of f. Can we name another example of a field? Of course, Q is another example. What about some non-examples? Z with addition and multiplication is not a field. Similarly, the set of irrational numbers with addition and multiplication is not a field. So these are both not fields. Now, it's a good question. It's a natural question to ask. Why do we want our set of scalars to be a field? For instance, why would we not want our set of scalars to be the set of integers? Now, the answer to this question is difficult at the moment, but I promise you that I will answer this question later in the course. Also, don't worry too much if you do not understand the concept of a field very well, because throughout this course we will only be using R or C. None of the other fields will be used. And you will learn much more about the concept of a field in a later course named Abstract Algebra. Now we can define a vector space. A vector space over a field F, here you should think of F as R or C, is a set V with an addition on V and a scalar multiplication on V, such that the addition and scalar multiplication satisfies some properties. These properties are inspired by the properties that are satisfied by Rn or Cn. The properties are as follows. U plus V is equal to V plus U for all U comma V in capital V. That is, the addition is commutative. Similarly, the addition is also associative. We also have a form of associativity for scalar multiplication, namely scaling with AB is equivalent to first scaling with B and scaling the result with A. Apart from this, we have a special element 0 such that if you add 0 to any element V, you will get V itself. In Rn or in Cn, this element 0 is just a tuple containing 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, etc. All the n places are 0. That is the 0 element in Rn or Cn. And given such an element 0, for every element V in capital V, there exists a W such that V plus W is equal to 0. This W is called the inverse, additive inverse of V. Once again, in Rn or Cn, for an element x1, x2, etc. up to xn, minus x1, minus x2, minus x3, etc. up to minus xn is the inverse element. Also, we know that the field has a special element called 1. If you multiply V with 1, then you will always get V itself. We also have some form of distributivity, namely A into U plus V is equal to AU plus AV, where A is an element of F and U and V are elements of capital V. Similarly, A plus B into V is equal to AV plus BV. Here A and B are elements of F and V is an element of capital V. Let us repeat. A vector space over a field F is a set V with two operations, addition on V and scalar multiplication on V, such that it satisfies all these properties. And elements of a vector space are called vectors. Therefore, the elements of F would be called scalars and elements of V would be called vectors from now on. Let us now look at some examples. The simplest example would be Fn. If you are uncomfortable with fields, you should think of it as Rn or Cn. Now, in some sense, it should be obvious that Rn and Cn are both vector spaces because these properties were inspired from properties of Rn or Cn. However, if you are unsure, you should check and convince yourself that Rn or Cn satisfy all these conditions and thus they are vector spaces. Let us now look at slightly more sophisticated examples of vector spaces. Consider the set of all functions f from R to R. Now notice that we can add two functions. How do we add f plus g? We define f plus g of x is equal to f of x plus g of x. Similarly, we can also multiply it with the real number c. C times f of x is equal to c into f of x. Verify that these two operations satisfy all the properties of a vector space and thus the set of all functions f from R to R with these two operations form a vector space. Now, as soon as we understand that the set of functions forms a vector space, we can now look at special class of functions. For instance, we can look at the set of all functions f from R to R such that f is continuous. Now, notice that sum of two continuous functions is continuous and c times f is also continuous if f is continuous. Therefore, the set of all continuous functions forms a vector space. Similarly, the set of all differentiable functions also forms a vector space. Another example would be the set of all polynomials. Once again, this is also a subclass of the set of all functions. Polynomials are functions. So the operations addition and scalar multiplication are clear. We can also further take a smaller class. We can look at the set of all polynomials of degree less than or equal to n. Notice that if you take two polynomials that have degree less than or equal to n, their sum will also have degree less than or equal to n. Therefore, the set of all polynomials of degree less than or equal to n forms a vector space. Now, I went through these examples really quickly. Therefore, now it's your job to actually check that all these spaces with addition and scalar multiplication as defined are examples of vector spaces.